council meeting. This is our regular council meeting. Let it be known that all members of the council are present with the exception of Councilmember Olvera, who is out traveling for work at this time. With that said, I am going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and our invocation today will be done by Pastor Omar from the Rose de Sharon Church. If you can please stand. Salute and pledge. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Whatever, you the podium. Thank you.
Amen. We're just gonna pray, not for God's direction. Father God, we just come before you tonight. We just thank you for who you are. And at this time, Father God, every decision is gonna be made. That you are leading, Father God, we ask for your direction, Father God, that everything that is going to be done, that is to better and to improve the community. In Jesus' name.
Amen. Welcome to Shafter, by the way. Hope you've enjoyed your time here so far. Good. Okay, with that said, I will need an approval of agenda, no changes, correct?
Mayor and council, just one item under management reports. Regarding item number 5, I'd like to pull that item and altogether from the agenda, and I will come back to council at the August 1st under city manager comments. With that, no further changes.
Very good. I will need a motion and approval of the agenda with management report item number 5 being pulled for a later date.
I move we approve.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Proud and a second by Councilmember Espinoza. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Alvarado,
Yes.
Prout. Yes. Espinoza
Yeah.
and Gibbons.
Yes. Very good. Tonight we have a few presentations and I was wondering who was going to speak. Steve, it is in your hands, sir.
Yes, Honorable Mayor and Council, I'd like to introduce our new Associate Planner, Alan Cazares. Alan is actually a trained planner from Cal Poly SLO. And he also has a year of experience under his belt as a regional planner with SLO-COG, which is basically the equivalent of Kern-COG here in Kern County. He's a local guy. He comes out of from the city of Delano. So he came back to Kern County after spending a year on the coast and realizing that the cost of living is much better here. So with that, I wanted to introduce Alan and let him say a few words. Thank you.
The weather's better there, though.
No, it changes too.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Welcome, hello, everybody. My name is Alan Cazares. And yeah, just want to thank the council, city manager, Steve, and everyone who has welcomed me so far and everyone who's provided me the opportunity to be here. I'm really excited to work with this team. It seems like a wonderful agency and I'm eager to learn and do the best that I can to help the city. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Welcome, welcome. Who's next? I don't, who? Oh, Dennis. Sir?
Honorable Mayor and members of the council, tonight I'm going to introduce Angel Velasquez. He's our new permit technician. So he's a Shafter native. He grew up in Shafter. He went to Shafter High School, then he went to CSUB Bakersfield. Graduated in criminal justice with a minor in sociology. Then he went on and got his essentially got his master's degree. He's one class away from finishing his master's in higher education administration. So very talented individual. We're glad to have him on our team. Through all his time of going to school, he found time to work. So he worked at National University, he worked at Cal State Bakersfield, and he worked at the Kern County Probation Department. In his time here, him and his wife have moved back to Shafter in the historical core area of Shafter. So that's where he decided to come back to, which is awesome. We're happy to have him on our team and I'll be glad to introduce him again, Angel Velasquez, and if you have a word or two you'd like to say.
Welcome back home.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, council members. I do want to say that I'm very, very fortunate to be back in my hometown. I brought back my wife from Las Vegas. And so far she is loving Vegas. She's living Shafter. I'm fortunate to be back working in the city of Shafter, close to my family. I've had nothing but good experiences so far with my coworker Abigail. She's been teaching me everything she knows, and I'm learning. I'm learning a lot. Dennis and the team of inspectors have been nothing but great to me. I'm excited to continue my growth with the city of Shasta, and I hope that I meet up to the standards that Dennis has set for me, and I think I will. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
for being here tonight and welcome back.
Welcome.
I love Shafter natives being here. Go Shafter. Council?
I said welcome.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't hear you.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no. I've been by to visit with them,
Uh,
both of them.
I haven't had coffee with them, but I'll set it sometime we have some coffee.
It doesn't matter how hot it is. He's drinking coffee. It does not matter if there's a fire around him. He's drinking coffee. Okay, very good. We will be moving on for public comment. Public comment time for those persons wishing to speak on any item included on the agenda or any item within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city council are invited to speak from the podium. Please state your name and address for the record. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes unless additional time is needed for translation. Public comment time is open.
Hello, my name is Omar Hinojosa. I just wanted to come present myself. I'm the new pastor here in La Rosa de Charon, Rose of Sharon. And I just wanted to see how the community is, how it works, and what we can do or what we can help and serve in the community. So the church and myself are willing to help in any way.
Very good. Thank you. Good having you here.
So Pastor, where did you come from?
Mayor,
Oh,
Ooh, You guys just did VBS for the first week too, huh?
VBS, this is our second week here in chapter. But it's been pretty great.
And they threw you right into it, didn't they?
Right in-
Yeah, they did. Oh, yeah.
We're here.
80 screaming kids at your ankles and they said, hey, why don't you be pastor here for a little bit? I love it. I love it. Thank you for being here.
so let me just,
Yeah, by all means.
Pastor, I just want to give you this little baggie here on behalf of the city chapter.
Yeah, very good. By all means.
If you're wondering. They're proving to my bosses that I actually showed up.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Actually,
I'm getting in the camera, photobomb.
it's really you they want to see.
Oh,
not me.
no.
That's why my back's to them.
Oh, okay.
But no, I am, first of all, Honorable Mayor and City Council, thank you for allowing me to speak. I am Mary Ann Bradfield. I'm a Public Information Officer with the United States Small Business Administration Office of Disaster Recovery and Resilience. And thank you for letting me get all of that out.
Yeah.
It's a new title. They've lengthened it.
Yes, they have.
I wanted to let you know about what SBA is doing in terms of the current presidential disaster declaration. In a presidential disaster declaration, SBA is an automatic partner with FEMA. And if you're not familiar with SBA, we're the smallest of the cabinet level agencies at the federal level. And what we do is FEMA gives grants, SBA provides actually the majority of the aid in terms of low interest loans for homeowners, businesses, renters, private nonprofits, and small agricultural co-ops. That is for physical damage, but we also offer in declared counties and the surrounding counties under our own authority, economic injury disaster loans. You may have heard that term during COVID. It's a little bit different. The COVID EIDL program was actually built on the natural disaster EIDL program, which is what we offer. And I think that might be the more appropriate potential fit for Shafter, because I understand you didn't receive a lot of damage based on the rains, the mudslides and the rock slides. However, that's as low for small businesses who experienced an economic loss because of or somehow related to the disaster, the floods. Maybe they're an implement distributor or dealer. Maybe they are somebody who makes different products for the agricultural industry that's been harmed elsewhere. Those kinds of things might have been affected. And these are interest rates as low as 4% for small businesses and for private nonprofits as low as 2.375. And our job is to make the loan and to make it affordable. So depending on their ability to repay, it can be up to 30 years. However, the better part of that is but any disaster declared between September of 2022 and September of 2023, there are no payments and no interest for the first 12 months. So, and there's no prepayment penalty. So if somebody needed just a little hand to get with operational costs, which is what it's to cover, to get through until business is back to normal, and they then have the money to pay it off, they essentially could have a zero interest bridge loan to that point. And so I brought some information about that, and you'll have to excuse me, I had to handwrite. They've just closed the incident period from February 21st through July 10th. So the damage or economic injury has to be within that period. And I'll give this to you. There's some in English, some in Spanish. I'm getting low on them because they're changing, but those are for you. Another thing that we offer is if somebody did receive some damage, and even if it was a roof leak because of these rains and floods, potentially if they're approved for a loan, up to 20% of the verified loss can be used to upgrade to be more resilient to future disasters. And the studies show us that $1 spent on what we call mitigation, disaster mitigation, $6 is saved in the long run by not having to continue to go through that. And not every disaster it gets federal aid. So that's for the consumer. In this case, it might be a more weather resistant roof, or I live in Tornado Alley. It's probably a storm shelter, things like that. So it can be large or small, and that's added to that loan. And something that's available all the time. We have something called Resource Partners for Small Businesses, again, for you. And that is, those are free small business counseling. Whether you want to start a business, you have an idea, you need help with a business plan, help with your loan application for disaster or for a regular business loan, or just planning to scale up, et cetera. We have that available, and I know I'm going over time. And last but not least, I'm going to leave this with you. This is, and I can send things electronically as well. Disaster preparedness checklists. These are handy no matter what, whether you're preparing for floods, fires, whatever may come, to be able to have those checklists. And like I said, we can get some information to you that you can even post on a website.
Yeah, that's all.
Are they all in Spanish?
No, there's some.
No, there's some, I'm just low on those, but let me try to get some more. I'll see if I've got any more in the car. And I will email this to you all. And I apologize. The deadline for the physical damage loans is the 20th. So a lot of these things aren't being reprinted till they get some updates, but I will get this to you via email. And if you'll tell me where you want it sent. And the other thing we have is, oh, a little thank you. Are some links that you can even use for over year round, every year. Okay, it's potentially fire season, it's potentially flood season, it's the rainy season. And you can have a link for all that preparedness on your website, and I will go out, see if I can get some more of those. And I apologize, I was running low, and I'm sorry, I know I've been long-winded. I don't want to take up any more of your time, but if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them.
I appreciate that. And if you have electronic copies, we can definitely share those out too. We can get
And-
those to the chamber and have those shared.
Yes, I will, and thank you all very much.
Just quick, did you say it was all for businesses?
Small
Um,
business.
Small.
Disaster assistance is not.
Okay, like a roof leaking roof or something.
A looking roof, that can be an individual
Residential.
homeowner, a resident, a
Okay.
homeowner. Or if the roof leaked because of during that period of
Uh-huh.
time, because of the flooding rains. And you're a renter, but everything inside was destroyed. They need to first register with FEMA, and you need to do that by February 20th. And if they refer, then you can also apply with SBA. So you want to do both since the deadline is so close. And that way you have the option of both.
Okay.
And I will send you some other information on that. I know we're close to the deadline,
Yeah.
but
2 days.
yes, but you haven't told, if you're a small business for the economic injury, you have until January 3rd.
Yeah.
Of 2024. So.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for that. Don't forget your phone. You know that Randy over there.
You noticed I looked for the guy with the bat.
Very good. No worries. Thank you. Anyone else for public comment time? Okay, very good. Anything online? All right, with that said, public comment time is closed. We'll move on to our council announcements and reports, and I'm gonna change it all up today. And Councilmember Alvarado, I'll have you start if you don't mind. Microphone if you don't mind. Thank you.
I don't have anything to report. Thank you.
Very good. Mr. Espinoza?
I did attend the oath of office for the associate planner, Alan Cazares. I did attend that, and that's all I have to report.
Ms. Brown?
Yes, I've attended some meetings, and I'm going to say, I'm sorry that I don't have an updated report, but we did a colors meeting, and I think it's important to know that the decision was made to do something in February to start rolling back to some kind of cultural and arts and activities that bring families together. So our next meeting will be the first part of August. So that one's moving forward. Then I met with KEDC, Current Economic Development, on June the 22nd. Very positive input from perspectives as to what's happening in our area that's continuing to expand and will benefit everybody, not just in Kern County, but in the state. Also attended MAD, which was the Mothers Against Drunk Drivers, and had a luncheon. We did take 2 officers, a male and a female, and was very proud and excited that we were there. Of course, the bigger agencies, CHP and Bakersfield City, have huge numbers in those areas, but the main theme thrown out was justice as well as peace. And when you think about it, that says a lot about our first responders. On June the 23rd, I had attended the Valley Policy Committee. We did it all on Zoom, and at this time I report to Kern Cog because we don't have to drive all the way to Fresno, and we meet from Kern County all the way to San Joaquin. And also the REAP, which was housing projects that will be coming forward for the Valley. Then on the 26th, there was an oath of office for extra help dispatcher who was Ivana Russell. And I believe she is helping us part-time, right? Oh, she did. That's what we thought was going to happen. She was pretty excited to know that she was going to come on and move forward. So that's good. And then on July the 3rd, of course, was the fireworks display, which I believe was very positive for Shafter, for the people that came in from out of the area. People locally stay at home and in their yards, and really what was at the stadium. And I think the results for Shafter and the feeling about what we produce was very positive. And I think that says a lot for our organizers as well as the people that came in. So I thank everyone that was involved in that. That's all I had.
It was actually a good turnout on the July 3rd event. It seems like there were more people coming out. This has always been one of the larger fireworks show events that happen throughout the county. COVID obviously messed that up. But I feel like things are progressing in the right direction. You're starting to see a lot more turnout, a lot of families playing out. The weather was like perfect. Everything worked out really well. So yeah, really, really nice event. let me add just a couple things. We've been talking a lot about you might see the post for the First Friday event, August 4th. We are still looking for vendors. So if you know someone, you are someone, whatever it might be, any small trinkets or things that you sell, whether it's plants, woodworking, clothes, hats, I don't know, pictures, things, whatever it might be, we still are looking for some vendors. We're excited for the groups who have signed up already. We've added more to the food portion of it, adding more to the vendor list as it is, but we want to continue to grow that. We've got a great band who's going to be there on the 4th and some other events that are happening throughout that day. So be here. I'm praying it's not 175,000 degrees outside. It makes me nervous as all get out, but that's okay. We're still going to have a great time and a great evening, and we're very excited for this. So if you know someone or are interested yourself, get connected with Vanessa and Rachel. I don't know who's running it. I think Vanessa's taking in the applications. 746-5000. Just call the number. And hope to see everyone down there. With that said, I will move into consent calendar. Tonight we have 18 items on consent calendar. I will do a quick read through, but it probably won't feel quick when there's 18. Approved general checks, number 1. Number 2 is approving payroll. Number 3, approving overtime report. Number 4, approving minutes. Number 5, approved special event permit for the Lennar Community Park grand opening. That is this Saturday, July 22nd, down in Gossamer Grove. Number 6, approve the special event permit for the First Friday Downtown Street Fair this coming or couple weeks, which will be August 4th. Number 7, accept the temporary road dedication from Lennar Homes of California and authorize city manager to execute said documents. Number 8, accept public improvements completed for the wonderful industrial park service complex and authorize the city engineer to file notices of completion and acceptance of work. Number 9, adopt resolution 2932, approving and directing destruction of certain city records. Number 10, accept public improvements completed with the 2022 street improvements project and authorize the city engineer to file a notice of completion and acceptance of work. Number 11, approve a cooperative agreement with the State of California Department of Transportation and authorize the city manager and city attorney to execute said agreement. Number 12, authorize a budget appropriation of $50,000 in unallocated streets capital funding reserve to project ST 00036, which is our Lerdo Highway reconstruction project. Number 13, authorize the Public Works Director to award up to $15,000 in professional services to California Consulting, Inc. for water infrastructure grant writing. Number 14, approve a payment of $30,000 in supplemental water impact fee charges to Oildale Mutual Water Company to service the public facilities at Gossamer Grove. Number 15, accept the treasurer's report for first quarter 2023. Number 16, accept the treasurer's report for second quarter 2023. Number 17, adopt resolution 2933, approving the City of Shafter capital asset policy. And number 18, adopt resolution 2934, approving the City of Shafter allowance for doubtful accounts policy. Questions, comments, concerns?
I'd like to make a comment, and I know you've just slid through it, but on number 11, that, let me see, the cooperative agreement with California is for our roundabout.
That is
And
correct.
we know that an awful lot of people use that Beach 43 and Los Angeles intersection, and it's moving forward, and yet we're gonna have to wait another year and a half, isn't it, Michael? Before we get to even try to drive it on it, but it's gonna be a very quick movement of cars, even though you have to slow down on a roundabout, but that one's very important that it's moving forward. It was only $8 million.
Only?
Yes.
Yeah. Very good. Thank you for that. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Otherwise, I will look for a motion of approval.
I move we approve.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Prout and a second by Councilmember Alvarado. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Alvarado,
Yes.
Prout,
Yes.
Espinoza,
Yes.
and Given.
Yes. Very good. We will now move into public hearings. Tonight, we have 2 items on our public hearings. We will start with item number 1, sewer and refuse service charges for Gossamer Grove development for the fiscal year 2023-2024 resolution adoption.
Sorry, Mayor and Council, these 2 items are ministerial in nature and that they're routine and are required to be done annually as part of what we do in order to get the assessment on the tax roll. So the next two staff reports are Deputy Public Works Director Alex Gonzalez will make the staff reports. Alex?
Honorable Mayor, members of the Shafter City Council. So the city is elected to collect sewer and refuse charges for the properties in the Gossamer Grove specific plan development through the Kern County property tax roll. This requires that we complete and approve an annual report that outlines the sewer and refuse fees associated to each parcel. That report has been included with this staff report. In addition to the report, is required that we conduct a public hearing and approve a resolution authorizing us to place the charges on the Kern County tax roll. The appropriate public hearing notice was published in the newspaper as required, and the rates included in the report are consistent with the rate studies completed for the city and are consistent with the agreement that we have with contracted trash service provider for Gossamer Grove. So the recommendation for tonight is for the city council to conduct a public hearing on the subject matter and adopt resolution 2935, overruling protests and adopting the engineer's report on sewer and refuse charges. Also authorizing the public works director to file a copy of the engineer's report with the Kern County Treasurer Tax Collector and authorize the Kern County Treasurer Tax Collector to place the charges on the property tax roll.
Very good. With that being said, again, this is a public hearing, so I will begin to open up for number one public hearing.
Do we have any record of written protests?
Marco asked that. Seeing no one from the public, go ahead and close the public hearing. And to that note, there are no records for protest. Council, any questions, comments, concerns? With that, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Alvarado, a second by Councilmember Espinoza. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Alvarado,
Yes.
Prout,
Yes.
Espinoza,
Yes.
and Givens.
Yes. Moving on to our public hearing item number 2, the order annual levy of assessments within the existing landscape and lighting district for fiscal year 2023 to 2024 resolution adoption. Sir?
Honorable Mayor, members of the Shafter City Council. So the city currently has 14 lighting and landscape districts that are used to fund maintenance of existing landscaping and lighting around and within certain residential developments. These funds are collected through the Kern County tax roll and require that an annual report be completed for each district and a 3-step city council process to be completed. At its June 20th, 2023 meeting, the city council completed step 2 in the process by adopting resolution number 2930, which declared the intention to levy and collect assessments, set the date for the public hearing, and approve the engineer's report for each district. Tonight's agenda item is a third and final step in the process, and the appropriate public hearing notice was published in the newspaper as required. So the recommendation for tonight is for the city council to conduct the public hearing on the proposed annual levy of assessments and adopt resolution 2936, which confirms the diagram and assessment for the existing landscaping and lighting district and orders the levy and collection of the assessment for fiscal year 23-24 through the Kern County tax roll.
With that being said, this is a public hearing and we will now open up for public comment. Okay. Seeing as there are no public comments, I will close the public hearing. Are there any records of protest on this item? No records of protest? Very well. Council, I am looking for a motion of approval.
I'll make the motion to accept resolution 2936.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Alvarado, a second by Councilmember Espinoza. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Alvarado,
Yes.
Prout,
Yes.
Espinoza,
Yes.
and Givens.
Yes. Very good, sir. Thank you. There are no other public hearing items for the evening. We'll move into our management report items. There are 4 items. Number 5 was pulled. Item number 1 is the approval of professional services agreement with Chandler Thinks LLC in the amount of $80,025 for city branding initiative. Sir?
Certainly, Mayor and Council, just a brief introduction. This item's coming before you from a recommendation from the Economic Development Ad Hoc Committee to the full council. Our Economic Development Coordinator, Bob Meadows, will make a presentation of the consultant that we're looking to retain under this item. This does involve branding. This is an exercise that we will go through that at the end of the day, we will have a city brand. And I'll not to take the thunder from our consultant, but that's basically in summary what it entails. With that, Bob.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you, Honorable Mayor and members of our Shafter City Council. When the ad hoc committee attended the ICSC convention in Las Vegas, we realized that Shafter had a potential for a new business, hotels, other multiple lines of retail business. We also realized that city must take some definitive steps to expand our economic development. One of those being creating a brand, which is really a competitive identity for our city. While there are many great stories told about our city, to have one solid way of delivery has not been achieved thus far. We, on the referral of Cosmont Agency, who we have worked with as a retail consultant for the Vegas convention and continuing to do so, they did recommend we contact Steve Chandler and Chandler Links LLC in Franklin, Tennessee. We had a meeting with Steve, their firm, and he'll explain that. He'll be joining us here shortly. The committee, as well as Rachel Zerminio, our community engagement manager, had a meeting with him, and following that, we believe that this is who we'd like to recommend for the city to engage in a branding contract with. I'd like to introduce to you the owner of Chandler Links LLC, directly from Franklin, Tennessee, tonight, Steve Chandler. Steve?
Hello, everybody. Just, it is 2023, so I guess I have to ask the questions. Can you hear me and can you see me?
Yes, sir.
Fantastic. Wonderful. Looks like I need some branding on my own. Chandler Thinks, not Links. But no big deal, Bob. We're getting to know each other. It's okay. It's perfectly fine. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and glad to be here. I'm just take a few minutes just to give you a little bit of background so you have an idea of who we are and kind of our approach to this idea of developing a brand for Shafter. I have for the city. I'm going to hit the magic button. I think I have a screen being shared. Am I successful in my endeavor?
Yes, sir.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. It's only a few slides, I promise. But I want you to know a little bit who we are. One thing I want to say before we get started, branding sometimes can be a word that throws people off base a little bit, particularly for a city. Do cities have brands? Absolutely. And what I would like to replace for the word brand, just to solidify really the idea of it, is it's our reputation. It's our reputation. It's a little bit, you can casually call it, what are we known for? Reality is when the economic development world or getting people to relocate, new employees that come work for us, they've got to tell the story to people. Honey, I got a new job for the city of Shafter. Really? Tell me about it. Because you're going to have to sell me if you're going to get the whole family to the city, right? And the same thing for no one moves their company to town, or an entrepreneur starts up or stays home without something that keeps them there that says, this is the place for me. So I think our reputation matters. And the reality is, philosophically, our company has been doing this. This is all we do. But we've learned it's everyone's job. It's not one single person's job to promote the city of Shafter. It's everybody's. And our company, philosophically, that's how we approach the process. We're consultants, sure. We all know the jokes and the criticisms of consultants from out of town, by the way, and that well-deserved. Our philosophy is everything about telling the story of Shafter is simply by listening to the stakeholders of a community, the staff of a community, the leadership of the community, the businesses, and the residents of the community. And so our proposal actually is about community engagement at that level. We just have the ability to look at it a little bit more objectively. So that's really the philosophy. Backing up just real quick, just the one slide that tells you about who we are. We are a place marketing company. That's it. We're not an advertising agency that works with bowling balls. I did that in my previous slide, by the way. Healthcare, as important as it is, finance as important as it is. We do not work with other industries. We work with all of our clients are either municipalities or tourism agencies, and that's about it. We help destinations, places promote themselves, and we do that through a lot of research and economic development research and a lot of planning. But our bread and butter, about 65%, 70% of our business is on working with communities like yours in development of a brand and of a story to tell. And so that's who we are, what we are. We are located in Franklin, Tennessee, which is about 15, 20 miles south of Nashville. But we've been in business for about 13 years. We've worked in 27 states, 80 plus communities. The most important thing is there's one team. We're not a huge consulting company that has offices all over the world. We have one team. And they're very, very experienced. I happen to be the one that's speaking to you this evening because of the dynamics of it. But the reality is our team is unmatched. And I'd love to say that your team researched all the different, there are a lot of companies that do what we do, or at least a handful of them. But there's no team of people that are going to be more experienced than ours at working with you all that have worked with many municipalities, whether it's our director of research, our creative team, of course, myself. I'm a little silly, so that's why you get that geeky little picture of me. You know what? This is fun. We have a fun gig. We help communities brag about themselves, and that's pretty fun. And we learn why everyone is proud of Shafter, why they've remained there, or if they left and they came back, why. It's fun. I'll be honest with you, it's a lot of fun. And so we have a good time doing it, but we take it very seriously. The idea of outsiders coming to your community, trying to help you with something that's so dear, we take very serious. And we know how important your future, the decisions that you make in meetings like this are very important. We take it equally important because we know how important it is for your kiddos that you're raising to continue on Shafter. So we have a great team of people that have been doing this, and this is who you'll meet if this is approved and we continue to come into your community to help out. So just a little 411, and then I'll get out. Then I'll kind of close and take any questions, but. The story of a place just to help you understand, so you can kind of see behind how we think. What is branding about? What is municipal branding, city branding, place branding? What is that all about? It comes from these things. Your history and preservation, first and foremost. And by the way, General Shafter actually was just down the road from my house, 5 miles at the Battle of Thompson Station. Thompson Station is just a few miles. I go to church at Thompson Station Church. So I have a connection with General Shafter already. But your history and your preservation is very, very important. People always go, well, is our story about where we've been, where we are, or where we're going? And the answer is yes, it's all of those things. They matter. Your history is the only one in the world that has that story. And so that is a part of it. But yet we can't just stay in history. We have to be about where we're going as well. So it's about leadership. It's about vision. It's about the businesses and their successes. Why did Amazon Fulfillment Center choose you all? It's about your residents. They're your most important advocates are your residents. They're the ones that market Shafter more than any ad campaign that you could possibly have, because I'm sure you don't have a lot of those, right? Visiting friends and family are the reason why people come to town. It's why people decide to come back. So our residents have to be a part of the process. And then, you do have some visitors as well. So, and we've got to stand out. We have to be different from, I don't know, Bakersfield, for example.
Good choice.
Yeah, right. We're more than just that little community across the line. We've got a story to tell too. We have a big story to tell, right? And so but no one's going to tell our story for us. And it's our responsibility for telling our story. And that's what we're going to hopefully teach you how to do. If I were to take you the entire proposal and show it in 4 phases, it would be these. We have it's really research, strategy, theme, and a plan. That's really what we do. I wouldn't be much of a marketing guy if I just left it at that. So we give it fancy names for alliteration: explore, evaluate, express, and engage. But we will first and foremost focus on explore, research, and that's where the community engagement occurs with your community. We have a lot of qualitative and quantitative pieces of research that we will be conducting with your community. You all will be involved in it. And many other people will as well. And then we simply synthesize all that information and come back and hold a mirror in front of you. Literally, I'm sure I'll probably be at your facility now doing a research presentation showing you what your community, what your leadership, what you all said about yourselves. In addition, we also go about 50 miles around your community to find out what do your neighbors say about you, because that is part of reputation building. Our neighbors know what we look like when the garage doors open late at night. They know what's inside. They know what time we get home, all that good fun stuff. So we do that research. We come back and help develop a plan, a strategy. It says this is really the best way for us to position ourselves. A lot of times people say, well, you're not going to possibly be able to say everything about Shafter in one little bitty line or a logo. You're right. We're not. That's not the goal. Our goal isn't that we have a dynamic story. And the goal of a great story, a great book, sometimes is a great title that gets your attention and a great opening, but then once I get you in, I can tell you everything else. So misnomer, it isn't the goal of branding is not just so we can have a logo or just so we can have a tagline. It's actually a story that we tell in a lot of different ways. And so we develop a strategy that does that. Then our thematic part, our express, our creative part of the project, that's where that fun stuff happens. It's where the story develops. There are a lot of deliverables to that that are all in the storytelling area, whether it's graphics, photos, colors, fonts, all the ways that we position ourselves, typical organizational branding. And then lastly, besides just giving you creative pieces, our approach is we want to give you a plan. Our plan does not tell you where to put a logo. I'm sure you can figure that out. Our plan is, how do you really brand a community? How do you brand your city? Right? So you've got an organizational approach, but you're also a place, right? Unlike any other branding assignment I've ever heard from any company, right? Branding an organization is tough enough, but you have to be an organization and a place. And it's why you get phone calls from people that really that are complaining about things. Maybe they're calling you just to say, great job. Maybe they're doing that. But you get phone calls from people saying, hey, why isn't this? And it's actually not public property, it's private, right? It's because the city of everybody takes ownership of Shafter. It's an organization and a place. And so our plan is focused on how can you as an organization brand yourself? What do you need to do? That's good blocking and tackling branding, but also how do we engage the rest of our community and get them involved in telling our story, not using our logo, because they can't use our logo. They don't want to use our logo, but they are the storyteller. So we got to have a plan that does that. That's our approach. Our proposal is really, to keep it really simple, is 4 phases of work that does that. I'm not going to stick on these, but for those who want to say, what is the scope of work and the deliverables? You can see here, and I know you had a packet, I hope, beforehand, so you're able to look at it of all the work that we're doing on the left and the actual deliverables of that work for phases 1 and 2. And then same thing for phase 3, the creative deliverables, a story, a tagline, brand theme, messaging, what things should look like, logo, of course, brand identity, graphics, electronic files, all that, and more. And like I said, there's a plan that we're going to give you as well. So that's kind of a summary of the program, and I'll take any questions that you all have about our company, or what we do, or specifics of the proposal that we have.
Council members, any questions?
Hey, Steve, it's Chad. Great job. Council, we walked through this with our Economic Development Committee. We've been talking about this, especially for what we've seen and recognized. You know, we anticipated going to places like ICSC. We've anticipated having conversations with retailers or hotels. You know, we've talked a lot about in our goal setting, tourism and destinations. What does that mean here? And is Shafter that now? Can it be that one day? And we've had all these conversations only to find out that we're really not that far off. People are already looking at us. We already have that opportunity in front of us. But the question then became, well, how do we get them to recognize us over the other people around us? How do we get to be recognized as the top tier? And that's where the idea of branding came from. Again, not a logo, but a story, really telling people who we are, why you want to be here, why you want to live here, work here, commute through here, eat here, whatever it might be. That was the most critical piece of that. And so we were excited to see this proposal, excited to talk to him. If you didn't get excited listening to Steve, we did, and that's the reason he's now on screen, almost like you're just right in front of us. So I hope we get a chance to hear from each and every one of you if you were good with this or where you want to be, but this is something that was recommended from the committee. We were really excited about where we are headed to. We have a bright future, and we want to take hold of that. Council, questions, comments?
It's good. We got to move forward.
I think it's time. I think it's that time to make that move, and I think we're headed the right direction, and there is a lot of opportunities in our community and our surroundings, and I think by doing this, it'll give us a good jump start. So,
Very good.
I like the idea of putting our own story out there. So I'll be interested in hearing your ideas and looking forward to it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I think this Chandler Thinks company is a better one.
Thanks, you got it, huh?
You have the entire proposal as part of your, as part of the packet today. The request for recommendation, the request is your approval of this contract with Chandler Thinks LLC for the amount of $80,000 $25. This has been budgeted in the 23-24 budget as part of the professional services in economic development. So the money has been set aside for this very worthy purpose. And I'd be happy to answer any questions for you.
Very good. Yes, sir.
So just a quick question. So when would this start? Once it's approved, when would it start and when's the, like the?
Well, I think we can probably talk on Thursday, right, Steve?
That is correct. Absolutely.
Not that we're, want to get going.
Okay.
There's an initial, I will, the plan is for me to be the point man with Steve on this. Certainly Rachel's going to be very involved because social media will be very involved as we get the community connected. But there's gonna be a lot of people involved. And I think we're hoping that that process too generates enthusiasm, but they do come visit. There's obviously a plan, but they do know what they're doing. So we'll work on the details of that. But we'll have that, if we can, that initial conversation with him this week and then get going on the process. It's quite well detailed in their proposal. And I think I've read it over several times. And so I think in the actual action will get started pretty much right away.
Okay, thank you.
Just a quick note before you vote, Mayor and Council, it's going to be a very inclusive process. There's going to be focus groups involved of city employees, you, council members, community stakeholders, businesses. So everybody in the community have a hand in this, if you will. We'll be looking at you for names of individuals who participate, you know, from young to old in the process. So we get a young perspective, a historical perspective. And so it's going to be very much an inclusive process throughout initially how we come up with that story. So.
How long is it gonna take to do something like this?
5 months.
Actually, yeah,
Steve,
his
that's
honor
my
would
running-
like 5 months. Steve, what's that timeline again?
Yeah, it's gonna, we say 5 to 7 months. I've had some people that just randomly, every once in a while, someone's like, can you do it faster? I'm like, sure. It'll take 5 to 7 months though. It just will. And you know what? And it should.
It should.
It'll take, you know, the phase one, the engagement part is, in my opinion, the most important part. As the city manager was just kind of walking through how inclusive it is, and it's very important. And that will take, golly, it takes 6 weeks, 7 weeks just for the community engagement part. The creative process could sometimes happens quickly, sometimes it doesn't, but it's got to be right. And so yeah, it'll take 5 to 7 months for the project under the scope of work to be finished. That being said, as soon as our scope of work is done, there's a lot of other work that'll begin and will take some time. But the good news is an effort like this has the plan will include what are some short-term wins we can have so we can immediately start to build on the momentum of the project and get people enthusiasm and energy is the single most important thing about the whole project. So what are some short wins we can do to get things started? But it is a long-term effort as well. And so we have to look at both, right, to get it really off the ground. But yeah, you're looking at, we'll be engaged with you at least 5 to 7 months. And I know the Mayor Givens is trying to get us to do it correctly, but swiftly. Let's push it through. So we're eager to get started as well. I expect that'll happen sometime probably late August, early September. I expect to probably see you all live and in person.
I think from the perspective of what the city's gonna do, we need everyone's help to get engaged. And Steve asked, I believe that you're looking for about 300 responses, if I recall, at one point in there, for how much input you want. And so we've never really had that kind of response. I checked with Rachel today on anything. So the more people we can get to respond and be included in this and give their opinion and share with Steve and his people, the better our story can be.
Good.
And the more inclusive. And so we have people in the room. Gary, we've got to hear from you. We've got to hear from others in this room and many that are watching. So and hopefully that they'll be encouraged to do that. And I hope council that you can encourage our residents to get involved as we bring Steve here and then get involved in this process electronically as well. So
Well, starting in August is a big time because we're getting through the summer season vacations and whatever. So you You wouldn't have as good a response today, but by the middle of August, we'll be ready.
Right, and especially if the temperature is anywhere near what Mayor Gibbons just said before I got on, I think 1,000 some odd degrees, I think we'll wait a few weeks before we
Yeah.
come visit, so.
Well, there's no guarantee it won't be even then, but
Right.
You know, I've been to Tennessee many times and I
Yeah.
will tell you, my 110 degrees is a lot better than 90 with 110% humidity.
It's a dry heat.
It's a
Yeah.
dry heat compared to that Tennessee weather. Woo.
Here, today it is air you can wear around Tennessee, I promise.
Ah.
It's thick.
we'll be inside.
All right, council, with that said, I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Mayor, I'm sorry, a motion by Councilmember Alvarado and a second by Councilmember Espinoza. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Alvarado,
Yes.
Prout,
Yes.
Espinoza,
Yes.
and Gibbons.
Yes. Very good, Steve. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you very much. Look forward to seeing everyone and learning more about your community. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Steve.
Thank you.
Okay, we will move on to item number 2, the discussion and direction on the city building landscape improvements. Sir?
Certainly, Mayor and Council, this is a discussion direction item in which we are seeking your input. As you know, we've brought this forward to you in the past of some proposed landscaping throughout city facilities. What we'd like to get from you is input into what ideally you would like to see as a council. We received a lot of feedback in the initial discussion. And so before we have the architect or landscape architect do the work, we'd like to hear from you first in terms of what you envision for our city facilities when it comes to the building and landscaping improvement. So Mike, if you, our Public Works Director, Mike James, will make the presentation, and then our introduction of our consultant, our education partnership, David Franz, will also provide some comment with regards to the library landscape. And so with that, Mike and David.
Yes, Honorable Mayor, members of the Shafer City Council, I'm going to provide a few slides as visual aids for this presentation. I'll be covering the portion of the presentation involving City Hall, and then Dr. Franz will cover obviously what's planned for the Learning Center. The new fiscal year budget adopted by the council this past June has funding included to improve landscaping at city buildings. The improvements could consist of addition of plants and trees to fill in open areas. It could consist of replacing plants or trees better suited in alternative locations because they will be more sustainable. And for now, the planned improvements are focused solely on City Hall and Learning Center. The intent of this agenda item, as the city manager covered, is to provide a brief update to the council on the status of the improvements and introduce the council to the landscape architect that's been retained to assist staff with planning and completing the improvements, and then ultimately seek direction from council on the next steps in completing the improvements. Now, within the past few months, Public Works, I'm sure you've seen firsthand, has been steadily working on the streetscape at the City Hall parking lot that fronts Highway 43. We've removed the grass that was there. We've installed concrete borders encircling the trees, and we've also installed concrete borders that better separate the landscaping from the parking areas. And most recently, we've replaced the City Hall monument sign. What left to discuss is filling in the areas around the borders on that particular streetscapes. Council members previously expressed a preference to retain a green look. And so staff followed up by looking into synthetic turf. The benefits of synthetic turf are that it stays green year round, and then it reduces water and maintenance costs, which we anticipate would be up to $5,000 every year. Option 1 for synthetic turf is to fill in the entire area, all of the open area with synthetic turf. And we received multiple quotes, and based on the quotes we received, we could expect the installation of synthetic turf to range between $25,000 and $30,000. Option 2 is a combination of synthetic turf and pockets of rock or bark or flower beds. This obviously reduces our synthetic turf cost by less synthetic turf to install, but still we're looking at a project cost of up to $20,000. Now, whether it's the first option on the left or the options on the right, we anticipate this would take up to 2 months to bid and install. Not included in this, not profiled in this slide, or so it's just simply replacing the sod that was there before. You know, the sod is readily available and Public Works can install that sod at a cost of approximately $5,000. Now, regardless of what option we ultimately choose, Public Works is planning to widen the sidewalk along that stretch for better accessibility, which, as you know, it's Caltrans right away. So we have an active permit application with Caltrans to make that happen. So with that, I'd like to pause in the presentation before we proceed to the next topic to see if there's any thoughts, questions regarding the streetscape landscaping at City Hall.
I actually like option 2, which I would say kind of shocked me, but having the intertwined kind of a DG or rock, I don't know what you would use there, but that intertwine of a nice little rockscape with the synthetic turf, kind of nice. I like the borders you guys put around the trees. The update that we see there. Whatever we choose would be nice to have some type of consistency across all city properties, right? You know, that's a frontage on City Hall, go down a block and a half-ish, and you've got PD, same thing that's going on there. And then obviously you have your stuff at Learning Center. So, you know, as long as we're consistent with what we do and make sense out of it, then absolutely.
Comment on?
Yeah, please, on this.
I
Yeah.
would just say, the synthetic turf and bark would be good. The rock part, I'd just be a little afraid. I don't know what size of rock, if it's a 4-inch, 5-inch rock, and somebody getting one, you know, and throwing that in a car.
Vandalism concern,
Yeah,
correct.
that'd be my only concern,
Yeah.
especially if having one at PD and every patrol unit goes by and throw a rock at it. So that part would be my little concern is the rock part, but replacing it with bark, probably nice. The synthetic turf would be nice. So that's my
Thank
2
you.
cents.
The thing that I like, it's open on the bottom because even at the police department, we trim trees. So you have visibility, but then we have some shrubs right on the corner that are pretty tall that's hard to see down the street.
Correct.
And I mean, those can be changed even at the PD, either replace them or do something different there.
Right.
But yeah, even here, because of coming along, when we hit the corner right here at State Street, it's difficult to see. They have that raised planter and then they've got some different stuff in there and it's not good to see down the road. Lots of traffic on CBH.
Correct.
So yeah, openness and yeah.
Mike, what's the difference between like, maintenance wise between keeping up the artificial turf versus having to come in and mow it and irrigate it?
I think based on what I've seen and heard, the main difference is you're maybe running the blower over it periodically, maybe as often as once a week, because the leaves and other debris accumulates there. But you're not necessarily have a full crew mowing and weeding and edging it. So so the currently up until a few months ago when there was grass there, we did have a contracted maintenance crew maintaining that on a weekly basis. So I don't think that would require quite that much attention if we had synthetic turf there.
Okay. I mean, I know what the artificial turf looks like. I've seen it and everything, and I know that keeping grass green and everything, and in the off seasons and everything, you got to work with it. I would like the idea of the artificial turf.
Bark changes colors as well as it'll collect a lot of debris that you can't clean out. And the trees, if they drop, can't blow it. So turf looks good. It's open, it's clean.
I used to work with a lot of landscape contractors before, when I had a small business. And what they used to do is they used to like to use the smaller materials because you could get a rake in there and you could rake out leaves and debris without removing the bark or the rock. So that's another option. Just use it smaller where the rake won't grab it. So.
Makes sense.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. One second. It's really anxious. Moving on to City Hall Courtyard. It's important to point out that at your August first meeting, staff plans to make a recommendation to award the roof replacement project. Before that work commences, some of the existing trees will likely need to be removed. And this is because limbs and leaves are preventing proper roof drainage, which, as we've seen firsthand, has led to flooding of staff and public areas inside the building. We ultimately plan to use an arborist to provide input on which trees can realistically be trimmed and which should realistically be removed or relocated or removed and replaced. The trees, any trees that are removed and replaced, they can be replaced, but it's important that the tree species and locations are planned out ahead of time. And there are some open areas in the flower bed areas that can utilize for new trees, and whatever trees we would plant would be mature trees, like 24, 48-inch box trees, so you can get that instant visual benefit. And I think the landscape architect has shared, in fact, that you could actually install a raised planter and plant that tree within the raised planter, so you add even more height and potentially even more shade almost instantly. So we're going to definitely consider that. And then finally, we're also looking into filling in and enhancing the flower bed areas inside the courtyard, just to add more color and more visual benefits. So, so with that, 1 second. Okay, so I'll take a pause right now and see if there's any feedback regarding the courtyard. Anything specific that concerns the council that we should address while we have the services of landscape architect, or just any questions?
Is the thought to still leave grass on the one side?
Correct.
Yes, so that it has that clean, fresh look. And
Correct. And as we've seen with the Halloween event, it also serves a functional purpose that we don't want to miss out on. So in the past, the council has expressed some concerns about some areas of the other side of the walkway being bare, and maybe some of those plants are out of place. So we'd like to take advantage of this opportunity to address that as well.
yeah, close to the street shows what you can do with some of the flowering plants. We'd have to, maintain, and if it comes time you have to take them out, you can always replace them, when they get too big.
And the more pressing topics involving the courtyard are basically the trees that have the potential to interfere with not only the installation
Right.
of the roof, but the ongoing maintenance of the
Right.
roof. So,
Right.
so we'll have an arborist on site to, give us a prognosis for some of those trees. And then if we award the roof project as early as next month, we'll likely need to commence those tree removals later that month.
Right.
If we just keep a theme going, don't separate these out as two separate. I mean, you're still at one place. Let it wrap around, let the theme kind of exist. Even if that includes some type of, again, bark or DG that has a pattern with it and the way they do the planting. But just keep that theme going to where it feels like they're not two separate places. It's one place with one theme.
Okay, understood. Anything else on that, the courtyard? Okay, then I'll hand it off to Dr. Franz. Restart this much.
Honorable Mayor, members of the Shafter City Council. Thank you. So this is the front entrance of the Library and Learning Center. There was a company that volunteered, the wonderful company volunteered to do a project and generously donated a lot of labor and materials to remodel the front, and with the idea of adding some interest to kind of prominent spot. Unfortunately, the plant material that was available was very limited at the time. And so the plantings are fairly spread out and sparse. So we've been looking at exploring what it would take to fill in the space, and understanding that Mike was undertaking and that you were considering the landscaping of the city, and that we were potentially bringing in an expert
this project has been sort of added to that as an opportunity to get feedback from you and potentially bring an expert set of eyes. So the rendering that you have there is simply an idea of, I asked a vendor to prepare a concept of what it would take to fill in the space, but it's not necessarily connected to the other work that's happened here. So anyway, this is just an opportunity to hear feedback and get direction. Thanks.
Follow the theme. We're gonna keep
Yeah,
that
put the
going.
grass back in.
If again, it doesn't, you can go down the road of grass, but you can still, if he's looking at it from a global perspective, you're still able to look at what theme is happening on city services because you're still connected somewhat to PD, fire department's the thing between us. You still have that connection that if I'm driving through there, I see what happened at PD, I'm down at City Hall. Oh, look, it's kind of got a theme flowing. That works. That's what was nice, even with the downtown plaza in the downtown area. Yes, those trees you could say are an arborist nightmare, but they're beautiful when you see everything connecting. You got this beautiful archway driving down through there. So much potential for it. And you have a nice little theme that you can create. Utilize those services to create that theme. Don't make these two separate entities. Find a way to marry the two. Doesn't have to be grass the whole way through, but how do you marry those two to make it feel like they connect?
That's a good segue to my introduction of Jim Rios, our landscape architect, representing Rios Design Studio. Jim, if you wouldn't mind
I see how you
approaching
did
the
that.
podium.
See how you did that. Nice. All right.
Jim has worked on numerous city projects and also private development projects within the city. So we plan to work closely with him right after this meeting and address your preferences and your comments and your vision. So Jim?
Yes, good evening, Honorable Mayor and esteemed city council members. As Mike said, my name is Jim Rios. I'm a landscape architect. Keeping consistent with some of the previous people that came up to talk, I am a Kern County native, grew up in Delano, went to Cal Poly, and came back to Kern County to basically start my business and grow old and enjoy life. But yes, we've been asked to provide input on the improvements that Mike laid out pretty nicely here. Some of the ideas that we've been looking at have been specifically on the entryway to the city hall would be to provide some seating, as Mike had mentioned. Some of the mature trees are probably going to have to go. And so the thought was to go ahead and build some seat walls, raised planters so that we could get some immediate height there. Possibly even create some little seating nooks where maybe there's seats across from each other where people could be looking at each other while they're talking, having lunch, waiting for somebody. I've been told that the grass area is a meeting place, so possibly we could have some input in providing some improvements that would help stage events for gatherings of people. One of the things that I think we can really help you out with is that we're well versed in the state of California MWELO, which is the Model Water Efficient Landscape Ordinance. There are some restrictions. We're not, even though we had a wet year this year, there's no guarantee we're going to continue to have wet years in the future. So that particular ordinance is still in place. They discourage, well, not only discourage, they don't allow you to put turf in any areas that are less than 10 feet wide. So those would be things that we would have to watch. Areas that are larger, where you're using turf for recreation and for gatherings, that's okay. It's perfectly fine. But they just don't want a lot of small strips of turf that overspray water onto hardscape and therefore waste water. But anyway, I think that improvements done on these three areas could really showcase to the public how water conserving landscapes can be implemented and yet be beautiful. The city could really sort of lead by example.
Concur. Yes, sir.
Yeah. If you have any questions for me,
The water, the water resist, or you said the landscaping that you're talking about, does that all have the lighter fall colors, or is there any green colors to that are available? Because it seems like when these come up, they all kind of have like the tan, the gold colors, the brown colors. And I think that's what throws it off from when you're used to seeing grass. I mean, we're kind of in a unique position here because we have our city over on 7th Standard, and that's all got one look over there. And then now we're trying to incorporate a little bit of that look in here. That would be like putting some grass in over there. It's gonna kind of clash a little bit.
water conserving plants come in all different colors. So there's quite a bit of a selection that, we can go through.
It's got more of like a desert look though, doesn't it? A drier look.
Well, I'll say water conserving, and I don't want to give you the impression that we're talking about implementing cactus, because that's what a lot of people tend to conjure up when they think desert. It doesn't have to look that way.
Okay.
To give you an example, we were the firm that did the restoration for Paramount, which now is wonderful. Right?
Wonderful.
When we first went in, what the headquarters looked like down on Lerdo, it was all turf with old juniper. So it's a very dated landscape. And they needed to have people come in on a weekly basis to mow the lawn. And it's a lot of maintenance to do that. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the landscape, but we went ahead and implemented a no turf landscape with drip irrigation. And all of the plants are very drought tolerant, and it offers color throughout the year. If you haven't had a chance to take a look at it, I invite you to swing by and take a look at it. Once it fills in, it looks very nice. The one thing that I would caution you with on the wood mulch is that it's temporary. You have to replace it. It blows away, it washes away. It just degrades over time.
Yeah.
If you go to more, I'll say, inorganic type mulches, DG, small rock, things like that, it's more expensive up front, but it doesn't have to be replaced and it won't wash away. So it's just a preference kind of thing.
Yeah, but when you look out here with the traffic, the foot traffic, even it goes by, I can see where the rock isn't always the best. But in private area, when it's off the street, off of Main Street, yeah, I like it too, but yeah.
Yeah, it's quite possible. One of the things that we played with at the Wonderful Company is we use different types of mulches, different colors of rock, different textures. So you had some that were smaller, some that were bigger, some that were a little more coarse. So you can play around with the landscape that way as well.
So you really haven't said much about the library, and I know you must have seen it over there. The library,
The Learning Center?
pardon me?
Yeah.
The Learning Center?
Yeah,
I'm not really all that familiar with it, other than what I've seen on the slides there. I don't think, just based on what I see there, you might want to say, you might incorporate a little bit of turf, but
yes, there.
it's not really going to be an area, I don't think, from what I see, that would be a gathering space, and certainly not a recreational space. So I think that kind of limits the turf that you could put in that area.
Well, because the activities at the Learning Center is really on the side and to the back. On the corner, I don't see them really sitting out there. We don't think we want our young families out there anyway with the traffic that goes by. I mean, they're pretty happy where they are now, working on the side and in the back.
Would the improvements include more than what we're seeing in these slides?
Yeah, well, what happened over there when we took the turf out is what I would call almost a disaster. Because the grass that was already underneath came through and some of the plants died because they just didn't set in very well and it looks pretty rough. Doesn't look good. But I know we can do something a whole lot better. So maybe what you're saying, maybe you could still put a little bit of grass with some color in there or something.
I mean, if
Yeah.
you want small areas of turf, the artificial turf is probably a
Yes,
good,
yeah.
decision there.
Yeah, for the color change and all.
It gives you the look that you're after.
Okay, is there anything else for Mr. Rios? Otherwise, we'll get to work with the direction provided.
Right.
Together, would it be like last presentation before planning or you know, go plan before or?
Well, we'll take direction from you. It sounds like we may want to update you before we do anything significant, for sure.
And if we have a conversation like we're having today and we have some ideas and then we go see what that's what we thought it would look like. Next month.
Well, just on the dollar amounts alone that we're talking about, we would have to come back to you to award contract anyway. So that would be the opportunity to kind of share what you're getting for that price tag.
Okay, thank you.
Just to be clear, what I'm understanding is that you want to see that back to you, so we'll bring it back to you.
Yes. No direction needed from, I'm sorry, no approvals needed from us on this.
Not this time.
No. Discussion and direction, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, folks, we're going to move on to item number 3, which is the award for the skate park equipment upgrades project to Svan, if I'm saying that correctly, Ranch, for an amount not to exceed 500,000. Sir?
Yes, Honorable Mayor, members of the Shaft City Council, among the improvements planned with the city's Clean California grant are upgrades at the community skate park located off of East Ash. There's approximately $670,000 that's been allocated to this work specifically, which includes replacing the equipment, which was temporary and it's been out there for approximately 20 years. But there's also funds for lighting, landscaping, and other enhancements around the skate park. Public Works recently completed a request for proposals to design and install the new equipment installation, and the vendors through this RFP were asked to submit proposals that do not exceed $500,000. This was to preserve funds for the other enhancements, the lighting and the landscaping and other enhancements. So we allowed the vendors submitting proposals to include modular steel framed equipment, concrete based equipment, or a combination of both. But the vendors were strongly encouraged to include their own design concepts within the existing floor space and within $500,000. So we received 2 proposals from qualified vendors, which are American Ramp Company and Spawn Ranch. Both proposals were reviewed and scored by a staff committee using a criteria previously established and provided in the RFP. The highest ranked proposal was submitted by Spawn Ranch. This company's specialty is concrete-based equipment, mostly because concrete equipment, with concrete equipment, there's improved safety and there's reduced liability and upkeep with that equipment after it's installed. So, and further, this company is committed to a pretty thorough design process that includes public outreach and 1 council presentation. So the preliminary layout for our project commits to accommodating all skill levels, all wheel types, as they put it, and then having a site that looks good and functions properly. So both proposals with scoring results are provided in the staff report. I should point out that there is less than 1 year to complete this project. So mostly to stay on schedule, Public Works is recommending tonight to award the equipment upgrade project to Spawn Ranch. And if authorized tonight, the public outreach and council design presentation will take place likely within the next 90 days. So, and then ultimately project completion would be scheduled in mid to late spring. With that, staff requests that the council accept the two proposals received, but ultimately, we will request authorization to award the skate park equipment project not to exceed $500,000 to Spawn Ranch. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions, comments, concerns, council?
No, I was just, well, I just had, good, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I was just thinking about the landscaping because we're on the mindset of landscaping as well.
And Councilman Alvarado, you were at a previous meeting, you mentioned, how the skate park would look and complement existing and planned development. So, yeah, this project before you tonight is exclusive to the skate park equipment. We do have an active design underway for the lighting and landscaping that we could possibly take a look at how that complements the existing terrain and what's planned in the future. Just wanted to make that clear.
Okay, thank you.
Make them marry up, city facilities. Any other questions?
Mike, do you have an idea what the breakdown is gonna be between like the permanent structures and the ones that you can put together? Is that gonna be half and half?
This will be, unless, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm looking at the deputy director who's also was involved in reviewing the applications, but the firm we're looking to work with is dealing with concrete based equipment. So there wouldn't be manipulating and modifying, which is kind of the problem with the existing skate park equipment because it's fairly easy to modify and move around in locations that aren't safe and ultimately cause issues, upkeep issues and repair issues. So the point here is to have amenities that are in place and won't be manipulated and will most importantly be safe to use.
Okay, thank you.
So when you talk about concrete, the concrete goes below the ground level.
No, correct. It's at grade.
Nothing's-
It's at above. It starts at the ground level and goes further.
Mhm.
Some of the examples you see in their portfolio.
Yeah, there's a
suggest
lot.
that they certainly can do that, but we couldn't do that for $500,000.
No, no.
So this is to work within the budget that we were allocated to the grant. And we can utilize the existing floor space that's there now and as well as the existing fence. So
If we spent less money there, could you shift some of the money into another project?
Not a clean count.
not without having a viable skate park, I don't think.
Well, but there are different levels of viable skate parks.
The problem, I think, really comes down to scheduling at this point. We would really have to kind of start from square one potentially, but we've seen with the North Park chapter, with the North Shafter project, the Swan Ranch is actually a sub-consultant. Because in the breakdown of amenities, then in North Shafter is among them is a skate park or skate amenities. And this Spawn Ranch has convinced us that it really can't have much of anything less than $200,000. And kind of like as I've shared in the past with playgrounds and modest playgrounds, even today cost $250,000. So, but it's important also to point out that the money that we're investing in this project is, 88% grant. And there's really engaged public outreach that's going to ultimately allowing the public to chime in and build a good project that really fits the needs of the community.
Yeah, I know we can say that, but you can't force the people to go over there. And I'm really wondering, I mean, I don't know how you feel about it, but there's nothing going on over there. I mean, it's been pretty quiet, so. And it'll pick up some because it'll be brand new, but it's a trend that I don't think will just always be big. And I don't like to see us spend that much money in it, but
So, let me, this is a clean cow grant, right? So we had to apply for this. And as a council, we would have had to have made the decision to apply for this.
I don't know if we ever had that. Well, go ahead.
We've had the discussion about this for a while now. So this grant was awarded, I believe, beginning of the year.
About a year and a half ago.
About a year and a half. My apologies. I thought we applied about a year and a half ago.
Well, it was a really quick turnaround.
Yeah, it was.
So yes and yes.
Okay, okay.
That's right.
So this is a conversation we've had about where, and I know we've been back and forth on it. Clean Cal grants, we can't just shift the money to another project because it's a park. We are stuck at this location unless we can convince Caltrans otherwise. And I don't believe that's the case. If we do that, I would imagine we're probably just going to lose the project as a whole. So just be mindful of that if we're sitting here talking about, well, maybe we should do it at North Park. Maybe we should not do this here. That would have been a decision we should have talked about a year and a half ago.
Mayor and Council, you're correct. This was part of a package grant that we put in for over $4 million. The aquatic center, James Street improvements. So this is a package deal that went, and we did present to council the list of
Oh, I
projects.
understand. I
The
understand.
list of projects that were being proposed and submitted. And one of the reasons I think we were awarded the grant, granted Caltrans at the time was wanting to get this money out as quickly as it could,
Right.
is the competitiveness nature of the combination of grants that was focused for community enhancement. Having dealt with experience with other grants that Mike's had previously been working, when dealing with the state park department on a prior grant took the stance and basically said, you don't do the project, you got to give back, forfeit the money. And so with this, we don't know if it's just forfeiting the money set aside for the skate park or forfeiting the money for the entire $4+ million. We don't know that, but that could be a possibility because that's been the state's position on other grants we dealt with. In fact, the shade structure had to come out of other source of funding when we decided not to do the dog park at Manlow Park. The state park department came back and said, well, you have to forfeit the 200,000 plus altogether for the grant. So from experience, we know that state agencies can take that position. We just don't know in this case.
We did that with a splash park too, if you remember. That was a mess over there. You know, we weren't supposed to use water and yet we still put the splash park in because we would have lost it. And so the state needs to know that it's not always feasible, even if it is 6 months or a year down the road. And they make it difficult for us to be wise about the decision.
Council, with that said, we are talking about the skate park, which is on West Ash, if I am correct. No, Euclid.
East Dash.
East, west, east, north, south. It's kind of all the same. Go with me on this one here. It's somewhere between Euclid and one of the ashes. We'll go from there. I am looking for a motion, looking for a motion for approval for the skate park.
I'll make that motion.
All right, move forward. I'll second it.
I have a motion by Councilmember Alvarado, a second by Mayor Pro Tem Prout. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Alvarado,
Yes.
Prout,
Yes,
Espinoza,
Yes.
and Gibbons.
Yes.
it's not wise, but
Moving on to item number 4, which is the authorization to release or request for qualifications for professional services to prepare general plan update, development regulation updates, and pragmatic environmental impact report.
Certainly, Mayor and Council, this is a routine ministerial matter and that we request council authorization to release the request for qualifications. This is not awarding. This is simply to solicit the RFQ of consulting firms that would assist the city with the general plan update, as well as the development regulation updates and a programmatic EIR report. So this is not to do any other work. This is simply to solicit RFQs of firms, and then we will then negotiate with those firms. We'll interview, score them, and then eventually award a contract to one of them. So we're requesting authorization to release the request for RFQ.
Okay. Questions, comments, concerns, council?
I move we approve.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Prout, a second by Councilmember Alvarado. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Alvarado,
Yes.
Prout,
Yes,
Espinoza,
Yes.
and Gibbons.
Yes, item number 5 was pulled. We have no additional management reports. Moving into our city manager comments and reports, Mr. Gonzalez.
Absolutely, Mayor and Council, I just want to give you a brief update presentation on the proposed public safety facility at Gossamer Grove. We've done significant amount of work with the conceptual floor design of the police proposed new substation. Our chief of police, Kevin Zimmerman, put together a committee of staff from within the department, from the different departments and the different communication, evidence and so forth to get input in terms of the proposed layout. I believe we've shared with you that we're also looking to establish a library service out there. And then future city hall services, because we will need to provide services. And then included is also, you'll see, is a large gathering room for the community out there. So we're taking advantage of the grant funding and creating more of a civic center complex out there to provide future services. Kern County Fire has also been working on their proposed floor plan. They've been doing that more independently because we're not really involved in terms of what that space looks like for them. But they have been in contact with the same architect that's been doing the conceptual floor plan for us. Included with that is also a proposed site plan and some basic renderings of what it could eventually look like. So let me share that with you. So this is the proposed site plan here. Gossamer Grove is over where you see the City of Shafter logo. And then the corner piece, the fire station will be located at the corner of what that will be, that new street there. Mike, what's the name of that new street? Do you know?
Cross Street?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the only place.
But that's a new street that would be constructed. So first you have the fire station and next to it is the proposed substation. Okay. Below the substation is an area that can be used for future development. We've reached out to Hall Ambulance, for example, that in the future, if they wanted to site a office or a unit out there, there's space for them to come out there that we would make available to them. I've mentioned that to them. It's something that they're going to look into as they continue to build out there in Gossamer Grove. But eventually in the future, you can envision what it would be of a public safety complex comprised of police, fire, and EMS. This is a conceptual floor plan. The bigger area is the substation itself. That is comprised of approximately 3,800 square feet. It will face the new street once it's constructed. The layout was designed, as I said, by the committee from the police department. And this is based on the needs that they've identified that we'll have for a substation. It's a lot smaller than what we currently have, mainly because we won't have a communication center out there. We'll continue to dispatch here from the main station in the core city. But this is all the space that they need. Right next to it is a future city hall services, the city offices you see right there. That would basically be a counter space and some office space, some filing copiers. What we envision there as we continue to grow is providing these city services out there, center building tech out there, finance, whatever type of services we may have, and start providing some of that to the residents out at Gossamer Grove. Right next to it is the future library space. This is approximately 1,500 square feet. This will be an area that will be able to provide what we consider to be low-hanging services, because I think the community out there will benefit from them going out there writing books, children going out there, families walking over to the library, getting those books. So if this is only for library services, we don't envision providing programs like we do at the Learning Center. The goal would be to notice those type of programs and try to get people to come into the core city and attend those programs here at the Learning Center at the core city, not necessarily to expand further out there. We're trying to get people to come into the city. So this would be more fully focused on just library services. And then right next to it is a community room. This would be a room that you say you got scouts or other kind of activities like that people need a meeting room. This would be available for them to rent as well. And then obviously you got restrooms, and then that's what the community room is, approximately 1,300 square feet. And then the city hall area, it's approximately just a little over 1,400 square feet. So for total space area out there is about somewhere around 8,400 square feet. This is just a conceptual rendering of the front of the substation. It's facing the new street. Okay, we are looking at modular construction of the new substation as well as the fire station. Kern County Fire is on board with them going forward with modular construction, which is basically the same. You've had an opportunity to tour the plant where they manufacture these modular units, and it's brick and mortars, and it will be at grade as well. And then this is just another elevation of that. In terms of next steps, now that we've completed conceptual floor plans, we're going to move forward with awarding a sole source professional services for the architectural and engineering to Teeter. And then we'll solicit the RFP for modular construction for manufacturers. So because these are modular units, HCD, the Housing Community Development Department at the state, is the one who has to approve the final design of the modular units and actually issue the permits, much like you have at Grow Academy with the modular units. So we will, not we, but the architect will get our plans to about 95% complete, and then issue the final, and then issue the RFP for the manufacturer who will complete those plans to 100%, because it will be them, the manufacturer of the modular units, who actually submits to HCD to get the required approvals to go forward with construction. So that's how that process works. We're anticipating tentative opening could be as early as Q2 of 2024, which is that April, May, June timeframe. That we could be turnkey. Then it's just a question of staffing it. But in terms of the construction of the facility, that's our tentative timeline for that. So this is just an update for you, because I will be bringing back to you the professional service agreement here in the next meeting or two. But we have completed, there's been a lot of work involved with that. So just an update for you. Okay. Did have a couple other things. Forgive me here. All right, we did have the auction of the equipment, what all the equipment, everything else that remained at the MCCF. That auction took place. At the end, we had a really good success in terms of turnout. It was done online. So I don't have figures in terms of money that was not raised, but the money from the sale itself, but I'll have a separate report for you on that. But at the end, we did have a lot of interest in I believe all the equipment got sold, one form or another. So I think it was what I would say a success for us in that regard. A friendly reminder of some upcoming events. First Friday, August 4th, 5 to 10. Stuff the Bus hosted by the Lions Club. Saturday, August 5th. Over at the Dollar General parking lot from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. It's a pretty big turnout because all the supplies are raised, donated, or given back to the community and the school age children.
Excuse me for interrupting. Are we doing anything with the street fair?
Yeah, so they will actually start the process during street fair, and we're going to get the information out. We'll be able to donate at that time as well. So if you can't make it Saturday, you have the opportunity to do it Friday as well. Perfect. Thank you.
So a bus will be both places?
From my understanding, but we will double check.
Yeah, that's good. That's good, huh? Yeah.
And then the new park ribbon cutting event at Gossamer Grove this Saturday at 9 a.m. They kept changing the time, I'm thinking because of the heat. So hopefully we're there at 9 and out at 9:05. So
1,000 degrees.
yeah, other than that, Mayor and Council, that concludes my report. I believe that Mike James, our Public Works Director, does have an update of 2 or 3 items, Mike.
Yes, Honorable Mayor, members of the Shaft City Council, on behalf of Public Works, I just wanted to cover 3 additional park and recreation projects that are active. For the Aquatic Center, we have received preliminary exterior site plans from our consultant these are the pool-based improvements. And with Mr. Gonzalez, the Deputy Director, I met with the consultant this morning, and we understand we're going to be receiving 90% plans next week. So we feel pretty confident we can get that project out to bid next month, or at least by the end of summer, put us in a position to have the project completed ultimately by June 2024 deadline that's tied to this Clean California grant. And this is for the pool-based improvements on the outside. And we've talked in the past about the main building, options for improving the main building. So staff is still reviewing design and cost options for the main building. Whatever we do, it will have ARPA funds involved, and the deadline is not as pressing For the ARPA funding, we have until December of next year to complete the work. But we're looking at rehabbing the existing building versus replacing the building altogether. So we'll have some more information and some more potential budgets for you to consider as early as next month. Moving on to the North Shafter Park project, that's Prop 68 funded. This is a new community park located off of Fresno Avenue, west of the North Shafter community. Wrapping up the conceptual design for that project. Hope to share it with you next month. And then finally, Stringham Park. That's also has Clean California grant funds. We're actually wrapping up the full design right now. Hope to have that project out to bid as early as next month. This project includes a parking lot, shade structure, and a new playgrounds to enhance the use of that park. So with that, that concludes the update that I have.
Mike, on the swimming pool, the building, is that something that probably needs to be replaced, or can it be retrofitted and upgraded?
Well, we're looking at the rehab costs right now. And we need to make a recommendation based on what we see the rehab costs going, because if it seems like a modest amount to get the site up and running and then buy ourselves some time to consider alternatives, I mean, future use of the building or future buildings based on hopefully partnerships with the rec district, local school districts, then that might be the best thing to consider. But if you have a fairly expensive if the cost to benefit ratio for the rehab versus isn't much better than we're replacing the building altogether, then the recommendation would likely be to replace the building. Ultimately, whatever option we choose, we have until December of next year to.
Would a modular building be a good idea there too?
We're talking we're talking to JTS, who's I believe involved in the project with the substation project Mr. Gonzalez covered. So we're sharing some specifications and floor space expectations right now with them. Hope to get a better idea of what a modular option would cost at the Aquatic Center. We hope to have that for you next month.
Yeah, because I remember using that pool way back when, and I don't think too much has changed since then.
No,
So-
and
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Espinoza, Mayor and Council, it's gonna come down to a business decision. I mean, that building is, I remember there was a member of the public that came up and said they used it in some almost 50 years ago or something to that. So no matter what we do it, whatever we do is gonna remain there for a very long period of time. Local government, when we construct buildings, they're intended to stay there for 30, 40, 50 years. It's not something that we go out and retrofit or remodel, whatever the case may be. So whatever we do, it's gonna be coming down to a business decision. But since we are exploring the modular option, even if the 900,000 or 700,000 from the ARPA funding is not sufficient, but let's say a modular unit is, a few $100,000 more, right? It'll be a business decision in terms of consideration of, do we spend 700,000, put lipstick on a pig and still have a 50-year-old building for the next 20, 30 years? Or do we spend a little extra 300,000-400,000 out of our reserves for a brand new building that's going to remain there for the next 30, 40, 50 years? So those are that's the type of analysis we're doing for you that we'll bring back to you. But ultimately it'll be a business decision for the city to make, whether we just spend the grant money or we draw a little bit down just to get it something nicer of what's going to be there for the next 40, 50 years.
Yeah, I'd be interested in taking a look at that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Mayor and Council, nothing further from other department directors.
Thank you. Council, any questions, comments, concerns prior to leaving? With that said, I am looking for a motion for adjournment.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Alvarado, second by Councilmember Espinoza. All those in favor with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, we are adjourned at 7:48 PM.